Hello, lover. Long time no see.
Poison ivy.
Not all Halloween specials are created equal. Some can end up a bit play by numbers, or fillery, or confused. In this case, we have all three. In 1995's Legends of the Dark Knight Halloween special, Ghosts. Despite having a Halloween theme, the story has a December cover date, which ends up being a bit amusing when you see what the story's about. Because this story decides to ask the question, what if a Halloween Batman special was a Christmas Carol? Move over, Nightmare Before Christmas. Though I don't really think there's a debate as to whether Dickens is a Christmas Carol as a Halloween or a Christmas story. It is firmly in the Christmas camp. But this story is here to change that maybe. No, it's not. Years later, they did the whole Batman Christmas Carol idea again, but this one was called Batman Noel, and it was Christmas themed. Let's see what the spooky Halloween edition has to offer. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics. Let's take a look at how this version of Batman A Christmas Carol pans out. Ghosts was the third Legends of the Dark Knight Halloween special, written by Jeph Loeb with art by Tim Sale and colors by Gregory Wright. The previous two had been Madness in 1994 and Choices in 1993, though that one usually just goes by Halloween Special. The covers of these are fun. They all feature pumpkins adorned with some kind of thematically appropriate headpiece. In this case, we have one that's robed, Grim Reaper Spectre action style. You know, if they kept going with these, eventually we would have had to put some very different things on these pumpkins. Maybe at one point we would have gotten to a crown. The pumpkin could have been a lord, and so can you. This video is brought to you by Established Titles. Established Titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. With Established Titles, you can buy a small piece of the Scottish countryside. Very small. This in the service of both reforestation and afforestation. Both ways. And you get this nice handy dandy plaque with your lord status on it. You can blind people with the lights like I'm doing right now. Title packs give you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland. And an official certificate with a crest. Your certificate features a unique plot number with which you can see the exact location of your land. Established Titles told me that the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will effectively be next to my plot. Within a few minutes or walking distance, will be lairds of the trees. Established Titles looks to help preserve the picturesque woodlands and biodiversity of Scotland. We plant a tree with every order and work with global charities One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future to support global reforestation efforts. It can also make a great gift for yourself or for someone you love. A title makes a great gift all year round. I got this one from my dad and he was kind enough to let me have it to film with, but I need to give it back post haste. Some also really enjoy the titling aspect and go hard. You could also officially change your name to Lord or Lady and get it on your credit card, plane tickets, etc. Established Titles is running a big sale right now. If you use the code CASUAL10, you get an additional 10% off. Go to Established Titles /CASUAL10 to get your gifts now. If you planted your tree, maybe it's time to go pick up a pumpkin, so you can carve it into a nice spooky jack-o'-lantern. It's a striking cover. The colors pop, the nice flames against the bat carved into the jack-o'-lantern's mouth. Nice touch. 'Twas the night before Halloween. I want to know who pitched this fusion. The Legends of the Dark Knight series, the original run of which this is part, ran from 1989 to 2007. For the most part, the adventures were set early in Batman's career, or at least earlier than the main canon at the time. Though of course there were exceptions. For this story, that's where we are time period wise. It's early in Bruce's tenure as being Batman, but it's been long enough that his core villain's been established. Bruce Wayne is at some kind of pre-Halloween gala charity thing. Whatever it is, it's a terrible idea because it's Gotham. Why'd I hit Gotham like that? Gotham. And him and Lucius are lamenting about missed opportunities. When suddenly the gala is attacked by the Penguin. Despite his unnatural appearance, Halloween has not begun a night early. Disfigured since childhood, Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot now bears the horrific resemblance of his chosen namesake, the Penguin. Tim Sale's Penguin is pure nightmare fuel. Those little pointy teeth. Also, this issue, the narration box doesn't have bowling, it has underlining, which makes me feel like I should be saving those parts for notes later on, like there's gonna be a test. What had not begun a night early? This Penguin talks a lot like the animated series Penguin, and the timing lines up for that. He's very upper crust and will be a member of the intelligentsia, but also he's nightmare fuel. Look, he has a little Halloween trick-or-treat baggie. The menace level is going down, that's cute. Bruce tries to protect people and gets shot for his troubles. He'll have to explain that later. But it's also a great time to slip away and become Batman. He was wearing a protective something, I guess. It makes sense, because crime can happen anytime, anywhere in Gotham, especially if you've organized some kind of event.
The grand entrance is intentional. I want Penguin's attention focused only on me, hopefully minimizing the casualties to 1, the Penguin himself.
Ah, the Batman. Well, I have an affection for most flying creatures. The winged rat is not among them. And so Batman beats him up hard. So hard that he decides he's gonna jump out a window to escape, and the onlookers just assume that he's killed himself to get away from Batman, but Batman knows better. He goes after him, and the Penguin has a jetpack, so Batman can do the good old-fashioned latch on and fly over the city bit.
In other words, the Penguin flies.
That's a nice emphasis. It's clever without belaboring the point, because penguins are lightless, it's abnormal. It works. You blithering idiot, with your added weight, you'll he'll kill us both. Mask of the Phantasm did it better.
As the protector of Gotham City's residents, justice must be blind, expedient, and severe.
Batman, of course, subdues him and gets to stand there looking like he stole some kid's Halloween candy. He's replacing the milk duds with toothpaste as we speak.
I have learned that my decisions cannot be encumbered by one's personal indulgences.
Really? Then why is everything monogrammed and bat-themed? That's a personal indulgence. It's on brand, but it's an indulgence. Bruce comes home and sees his dad's face in the door knocker because his dad will be playing the role of Marley in this Christmas Carol AUFIC. Bruce ate some shrimp at that party and its food poisoned him. Figures. So he tries to go to bed but is soon awakened by clanking the chains. The chains scene is iconic. You need to have it if you're doing a Christmas Carol adaptation of any kind. Good evening, Bruce.
This is someone's idea of a Halloween joke, a perverse prank.
These chains I wear I forged in life. Link by link, yard by yard, I made this burden. The chains line is always great. There's something so viscerally horrifying about it. Seeing the shackles people constantly wear in day-to-day life rendered physical like that. I've always wanted a version that deals with the concept of people who bind their minds, be it through ignorance, fear, closed-mindedness, so that were they to be rendered, they would either have the chains coming from their heads, holding them down, or wrapped around their heads, or maybe like a cage around their head and they can barely speak or get the words out because it's just so weighed down. Come on, Christmas Carol adaptations, don't let me down. You need that for a horror Christmas Carol adaptation. This scene is a bit of a weaker link. It's just dumping Thomas Wayne was not a great father on us with no preamble. It says that he was obsessed with his medical practice, that he was neglecting Bruce. Okay, take the story's word for it. So the link they're trying to forge here is that Thomas neglected his family and now Bruce is neglecting himself, even though we have not seen that. We've seen him stop a robbery because it was at an event he was attending. This would have held a bit more weight if we'd seen Bruce turn down the invite and instead he'd spent the evening, say, in the Batcave, just obsessing over the idea that somebody was going to attack somewhere in Gotham, but then nothing happens. But that would also have deprived us of that Penguin nightmare fuel. I pray I am not too late. Your obsession with Batman creates an even greater and more thunderous chain. Okay, so 3 spirits are gonna visit him. We know the drill. Past, present, future. So the question is, who's gonna represent who? For the past, we have Poison Ivy. Hello, lover. Long time no see.
Poison Ivy. Pamela Isley, botanist turned madwoman. Suddenly it all begins to make sense. Somehow you've poisoned me, invaded my home, my mind.
I wish that was what was happening. It is not. I'm flattered by the accusation, but I'm merely a player this evening and not the pilot. The real Pamela Isley is locked safely away in Arkham where you put her. We spirits merely chose these forms because of who you are. To others, we might appear as something or someone else. Okay, but why Ivy for the past? If we're going with the idea that the spirits are people from his actual life. For his past, shouldn't it be someone from before he was Batman? Or someone not necessarily involved with him being Batman to symbolize that he was more Bruce back then? If they wanted it to be a woman who is not his mom, because you probably want to see his mom in the flashbacks, why not do a deep cut to some romantic interest that people tend not to use anymore? It's Julie Madison time. His fiance for 2 seconds back in the Golden Age. Came back for a bit in the modern era, but at this time period, she wouldn't have been used. You can reframe the dissolution of their relationship. Make it seem like his developing devotion to being Batman is what ended it. Just imply it. If Ivy makes sense to you, please share why down below. As it stands, the imagery for her is eye-catching, and it's not her typical depiction either. The spirit mercifully does not take us directly to Crime Alley, and actually we avoid that cliche entirely, so well played. Instead, we go to Halloween night, where Bruce is dressed as Zorro. Nice nod. He wants to go trick-or-treating, but his father can't make it because there was a medical emergency. See, this is part of why it being his dad doesn't work. His dad's not just selfishly staying behind for cash monies, but because there are patients. So it's about building the practice, yes, but also about his devotion to duty, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Bruce's disappointment, of course, makes sense, but it doesn't necessarily work thematically. Not with the whole, see, this is where the chain started, this obsession. Because then instead it's forcing the idea Bruce also developed a sense of duty to others around him at the expense of those close to him. Which, while sad, one could also make the argument could be for the greater good. It's overcomplicating the much more simple message of A Christmas Carol, where Scrooge is just a cold, cruel person whose actions are actively hurting all those around him. Because this story also needs to put forth the idea that him being Batman is a good idea, a good thing. So it's already having to do more, because in the original story, the idea is that no, nothing about how Scrooge is conducting himself is good. He needs to change pretty much everything. Also, in this flashback, his mom says she'll go with him, but she's not cool enough. He doesn't want her to go. And when she suggests some friends, he says he has no friends. Okay. Why? Then Batman is all, this has gone on for long enough. Let's move on.
I still have no friends.
So now we hop over to Paris, where he was training, where he runs into Lucius and saves him from being mugged. Lucius is pleased to see him and implies that together they can make the city a better place. But Bruce is all, my money's committed elsewhere. I need to build this crazy cave and fill it with really cool, expensive things.
Lucius wouldn't have understood. No one could. I made a promise to honor my parents, someday to rid Gotham City of the crime that took their lives.
Is that how your parents would have wanted you to honor them? I don't know. I mean, his dad's ghost didn't say to stop being Batman. He said to get a better work-life balance. Bruce awakens to throw up because he has food poisoning. So it really hammers home the idea that this might not actually be happening, which in the case of A Christmas Carol is not necessarily needed. After he's done with that, he hears laughter coming from downstairs. And it's the Joker, and my favorite panel from the story. The way the glow from the fire casts itself across the room and affects everything except the Joker's unnatural pallor. So you have Alfred's skin tone being affected by the darkness, as it should be. Good use of lighting, because you have the shadow being cast off Batman, but then the light from the fire from behind. Because lighting impacts how one looks. It's light bending. So of course one may be lighter or darker depending upon the light in the room and its sources. But by ignoring light bending on the Joker, he glows. It makes him extra otherworldly. So you get the effectiveness of maintaining the verisimilitude, but also then ignoring it. Both can have their uses, and they're both utilized in this one panel. All the jack-o'-lanterns have different faces too, and just the way the Joker's overdramatically posed ever the showman, sometimes a panel hits you just right. This is one of those for me. Although they did give him Christmas colors in his lettering. I guess they were like, it's Christmas, and it's like, no wait, it's Halloween. Rough housing. Missed me. Now you gotta kiss me. The Joker for Batman's present spirit is an excellent choice. If you're going for the idea that Bruce is Batman too much, Joker encapsulates Batman at his prime, his arch nemesis, a reason for him to have to keep going being the vigilante he is, a reason that he has to isolate himself to keep others safe. The Joker embodies so much of what Bruce is fighting against that it's a nice juxtaposition against the idea that Bruce is giving up too much of himself to be Batman. Because then you have this figure there that makes his mind scream, but how can I not? Where it falls down is in what the Joker shows him. In A Christmas Carol, during the present section, Scrooge is shown how his actions are impacting those around him, those in his life directly. How his employee, Bob Cratchit, must live because of the poor wages he pays him. How not only is he missing out on fun in his nephew's house, but he has a terrible reputation that people don't like him. Which, when confronted with that fact, hurts him. It's not something he had really considered before. Here we're running out of pages, so we can only see one thing. It's not Bruce having a negative reputation. No digs at the party boy or anything like that, because he doesn't seem to be operating under his vapid Brucey persona. Side note, did anyone else catch how Hal called Bruce Brucey in Dark Crisis #5? Strange vibes. But this present moment also doesn't have anything to do with how he's perceived as Batman. Not Gordon worrying that he's going too far or anything like that. Instead, we see some kids who are in Halloween costumes, despite the fact that it is the day before Halloween, but they're out trick-or-treating. And they've come all the way to Wayne Manor, which is typically depicted as outside of Gotham, and it's to pull a I hear the guy who lives here is spooky. When the story is set on Christmas, the parties and the events that are happening make sense because it's Christmas Eve, so there's still parties on that day leading up to Christmas Day. There's not really pre-Halloween trick-or-treating. Also, why would Bruce have a reputation as a recluse? We just saw him going out to a party. Who'd want to live in a place like this? This guy never comes out. What? He does come out. He just went to an event. I'm sure that he's seen publicly and that they write articles about him because he is a socialite. He's a public figure. That idea of that reputation doesn't really land in this context. You know, come to think of it, neither one of us has any friends. Anybody who would want to get to know us would have to be nuts. Oh god, oh no, we're the same, you and I love this panel too. Although the we're the same, you and I would have worked better if it was showcasing people being terrified of Batman the way regular people are scared of the Joker. Because it would follow through with the whole idea of Bruce losing himself and becoming a monster. And then the Joker just leaves, last ghost. And there's really no time left now, so we just skip any bad mouthing of dead Bruce and go straight to his grave. We don't even do any preamble, it's just right there, there's his name. We don't play the whole like, who is it, spirit? No, it's him. We see sad Alfred at Bruce's grave. And who is the Reaper spirit? We see them, they pull their hood back and it's Batman. He died being Batman, whoever would have guessed. It's honestly more surprising in the iterations where he doesn't die being Batman. Also, I really like this panel, the future spirit up behind him. His polka dot pajama bottoms, very nice, stylish. His grave is positioned in between his parents who aren't beside each other but facing each other, and only his grave is overgrown. So Alfred cleaned their graves and not his? Harsh. We then get the iconic, oh, how can I change this? Can I change? Is it too late? Was my father right? Am I being Batman too much and I've left nothing for myself? Part of the reason that speech works in A Christmas Carol is because Scrooge is old, so he's nearing the end of his life. Seeing this grave, it's more of an impending thing for him. This isn't as far away for him as it is for, say, Bruce. Bruce is in his maybe late 20s in this story, and we haven't been presented with the concept that being Batman is overly hazardous for him at this point. That shrimp dealt him more damage than the penguin. So Bruce wakes up and they pull the whole, what day is it? Why, it's Halloween day. Only again, it's Halloween. So really, if there's one day that Batman should not take off based on the city that he inhabits, it's Halloween. But he's going to because Bad Shrimp and his ghost dad told him to. All those Gotham trick-or-treaters better protect themselves. I'm sure they'll be fine. So he calls over Lucius and decides he's going to take him up on his idea to use his money for philanthropic good and try to improve the city on infrastructure and systemic level, as well as by being Batman. Which in other stories, aside from some time recording, where they've forgotten that's a thing he did, this is something he's always done unprompted as just part of the whole improving Gotham mission. But here he did it because Ghost told him to. You know, so people will clean his grave and he'll have friends. That's probably not how it's meant to be read, but it's certainly the way that it comes across. Or one of the ways it can come across. It may come across differently to different people. He'll keep Halloween in his heart every day because he's Batman. Every day is dress up day. And he stays home to give out candy to kids after decorating his house for Halloween. The end! This Halloween special is jumbled and rushed. Not the finest attempt to translate Batman to A Christmas Carol. It doesn't fully hit the theme it's trying to bring out. The idea of Bruce becoming too obsessed with Batman, because instead of working with what's there, it just twists some things to try and make them fit. It also does this so it can try and hit some of the beats of the original story, just directly. His dad as Jacob Marley is awkward, and they don't do enough to showcase Bruce's obsession as negatively impacting his life, because they don't show enough of his life to show it being impacted. How much stronger of a parallel would it have been, for example, if you have the trick-or-treating scene where his dad can't make it and he's so disappointed, then you juxtapose that in the present, for example, with Dick Grayson waiting for Bruce to come home for something, and he doesn't. He disappoints him in the same way that his father let him down. So then you can see that through line of how him being Batman is having the same impact as his father being a doctor. Show him turning down invites to things. Show people assuming he's an arrogant airhead as a result. Show the scary side of Batman during the Penguin opening. Maybe have a kid see him just wailing on the Penguin, and later we can see that kid being affected by that. It being a child being another link to the damage that was done to Bruce as a child, and how he is now repeating that through Batman. This idea could work with the theme that they chose, but it doesn't work out very well in the execution. Part of that, in all fairness, is because of the comic's length. You're trying to jam a lot in there. So no matter what you do, you're gonna end up with the Cliff Notes abridged version of A Christmas Carol. And this version skews too heavily to the lead up, so by the time the ghosts are appearing, we're running out of time. Also, shifting the story from Christmas themed to Halloween themed hurts it. It doesn't work in this context. Yes, Batman is very easy to transfer over to Halloween. He's the Dark Knight, he lends himself to it. But the story of A Christmas Carol being on Christmas is itself symbolic, even though Dickens's work itself is instrumental in cementing certain viewpoints around Christmas and how people celebrate it. But the idea is that Christmas is a time of renewal and forgiveness, and maybe just a little bit of magic. Halloween has long been associated with a darker brand of magic, with renewal less at the forefront, at least in the context that this work is coming from. Batman taking Christmas off has a very different energy than Batman taking Halloween off. There are some gorgeous panels in this, but the art is its strength, and that may not be for everyone. It's an interesting experiment, but it doesn't fully succeed. But those are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What scary story would you give the Batman fanfic treatment to? Who would you pick as Batman's Christmas Carol spirits? Should Batman take Halloween off? Share your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this part of the day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.